Good morning and good afternoon, and welcome to another CPC Strategy hosted webinar, one of our many during our Q4 Amazon Growth Virtual Summit for Brands. So if this is your first time with us, welcome, and we hope to see more of you at future events. If this is not your first time, welcome back, and we're happy to have you here again for another webinar. So we all realize Q4 is right around the corner, and it's vital to ensure that your Amazon is fully prepared for increased product visibility to convert shoppers, especially when Amazon has over 100 million Prime members today. So in this webinar, we'll be looking back while moving forward for success with Amazon Q4. So our speakers will be looking back at Amazon trends to help you propel forward for success this holiday season. So I first want to go over the summit. Today's day one. CPC Strategy is kicking it off with this first session. Just 15 minutes after this session ends, we have Solid Commerce joining us, and they'll be presenting on best practices and tips for inventory management. Tomorrow, same time as now, we'll have Jungle Scout. We'll be presenting on product strategies with a couple of live walkthroughs on how to implement these tips. And then closing out the summit after that will be Salsify, who will be presenting on how to enhance your product page to win the holiday sale. So be sure to tune in to all the sessions that you're interested in learning more about. Logistics Live, I would like to introduce myself to you all. I'm Annalicia. I'm CPC Strategies Webinar Coordinator. A few logistical questions. Yes, rest assured that the session recording and slides will be sent out to all registrants within 48 hours. We got you covered there. Secondly, I want to point out that we do have a questions tab. So I'll be moderating today, and I'll be kind of queuing up all your questions on the back end. So on the GoToWebinar user interface, there'll be a tab that's labeled questions. Feel free to submit your questions to our speakers there, and I will be kind of adding those to the queue for our last 10 minutes of Q&A today. Also, we do have some resources available for download in the handouts tab. It's relevant to today's topic, just some supplemental resources for you all to download if you'd like. And lastly, we asked you to join in on a few poll questions that we're going to ask throughout the presentation. One at the beginning, hopefully one in the middle as well, and one towards the end. So we ask that you join in on those. Before we do start, for those of you that might not be so familiar with CPC Strategy, we are a retail-focused paid search management company focusing specifically in the realms of Google Shopping, paid search, Amazon sales acceleration, as well as some creative and content optimization. And lastly, we do Facebook performance marketing as well. So we're just over 10 years old, founded in 2007, and we have over 500 active retail clients ranging from CPG to services, and we work full funnel, brands at the prospecting level, as well as more bottom of the funnel. But without further ado, I would like to introduce you all to our speakers today. We have Nancy McLaughlin and Jordan Gish. Nancy, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Annalicia. Hi, everybody. It's great to be chatting with you all today. As Annalicia mentioned, my name is Nancy McLaughlin. I manage our senior tier of Amazon analysts here at CPC Strategy. The goal of today is to really review trends and things we're seeing throughout 2018 and how to implement strategies so that you guys can have a successful Q4. I'm thrilled to be here today with Jordan Gish.
Yeah, thanks, Nancy. As she mentioned, my name is Jordan Gish. I am a senior marketplace channel analyst here at CPC. I've been with the team here at CPC for just about 2.5 years now. And it's really been awesome to be able to take a deep dive into Amazon, work very closely with both large brands as well as sellers, and kind of continue to build their businesses on Amazon and beyond. So with that, we'll go ahead and then transition into just a quick agenda for today. We will start with a poll here, so that'll be coming out in a second. Following that, a little bit of setting the stage where we'll recap what we've seen kind of as larger trends within 2018 as well as Q4 and holiday season in 2017, and then how we can start to utilize that moving forward into Q4 2018. From there, we'll take a deeper dive into 5 emerging trends that we've been seeing on Amazon. And with that, we will again unpack a little bit more about the Amazon customer market share and traffic, and then how to really approach a full funnel marketing approach on Amazon, as well as hybrid selling, so a 1P and a 3P model, which has been quite popular so far in 2018 as well. And then finally, we'll just cap it off with some actionable tips and for Q4 and how you can continue to grow your business in the holiday season. So with that, we'll go into some news here again, 2018 and Q4 2017. Nancy, I'll let you go ahead and kick that off.
Great. Yeah, it's no surprise that we've seen significant growth in 2018. It's been another busy year for Amazon, with 49 cents of every e-commerce dollar now being spent on Amazon.com. It's crazy to kind of look at the growth that we've seen within our portfolio of clients. Significant increases, not only in spend or ad spend on the ad spend on the platform, but also in revenue, with an estimated $3.4 billion on Prime Day alone, despite some glitches that we saw. So through product renaming, we continue to see Amazon move towards a more unified offering. So we're starting to see them shift from AMS to Advertising Console, AAP to DSP. For today's webinar, we're going to continue to use kind of the old terms, AMS, AMG, and AAP, to kind of work through some of these slides. But now, with Amazon having more than 100 million Prime members, this platform is really no longer something that brands can choose to ignore. Gish, we spoke a bit about the increase in revenue and ad spend. Why do you think there has been such a spike?
Yeah, so it's a few things that we've really seen. One being the increase in amount of sellers, which obviously as the sellers increase, it's vital for you to continue to differentiate your products, ensure that you have fully built out product detail pages with beautiful A+ content for vendors or enhanced brand content for sellers, and then really, again, like I said, differentiate your offering. So with that increased sellers, it is important that you do have a strategy in place to get out in front of those sellers, whether it be a full funnel advertising marketing approach, and ensuring that you're kind of feeding that Amazon flywheel to increase your organic rank and get in front of those shoppers. Few other notes here. Increased market specific consumers. It's been a big trend, obviously, as people are very comfortable with the Amazon platform. We've seen, people going from, they used to shop at a grocery store and then go to the bookstore, where that's all being combined now into Amazon, and where people are just very focused on getting everything possible from Amazon. And with that, obviously, increase in demand and shoppers on the platform. All right, we're going to move now into some of the 5 emerging trends. We'll go ahead and kick it off here with trend number 1, and increased competition. Nancy, I'll go ahead and let you take it over from there.
Absolutely. So as we're thinking about Q4, it's very obvious that we're seeing increased competition in the space. And when we're thinking about what types of products people typically purchase during Q4, we're going to use beauty or luxury goods as some of these examples today, because these are categories that we see significant spikes in. So higher priced items around gifting and things like that. And so you'll see kind of a couple beauty examples or luxe beauty examples throughout the presentation, keeping in mind that these principles can be applied to any category, especially during Q4 where there's heightened traffic. So if we're looking at the beauty category alone, or luxury beauty, sorry, this started as a closed opportunity for 24 luxury brands not too long ago. I'd say probably 3-4 years ago. We've seen incredible growth in this category, with May reaching 192% year-over-year growth in May alone, and average about 57%. So we've really seen significant growth over the last year and a half. Amazon also now has a 94% overlap with Ulta, which is one of the US's largest beauty retailers. This category is not independent in that overlap. So we're seeing overlap in sporting goods stores. We're seeing overlap in Target. And so as we continue to head into Q4, the busiest shopping period of the year, what does this increased competition mean for brands, and how do we continue to grow and gain more customers? So really what you're seeing on the screen now is a CPC advertising framework specifically for luxury goods or luxury beauty. However, this can be, again, applied to any product. We're using this category as an example because it's most evident in these types of products. So this is how we start to, at CPC, how we start to think about distribution of budget, customer acquisition. We start to look at, how do we target consumers based on their experiences and lifestyle. So let's take a deeper dive into this framework. So when we're looking at on Amazon consumers, we know that 74% of the time when a customer arrives on Amazon.com, that visit results in a purchase. So when you're thinking about, and Jordan's going to go a little bit more into the funnel, but when you're thinking about on Amazon purchases, that is really a demand capture site. So there is somebody that is arriving at Amazon, they have a product or products in mind, the demand for that product or set of products is already there. And so as advertisers, our job is then to capture that demand. There is some secondary demand generation that is done through HSAs and acquisition and things like that, but primarily demand capture, and it goes back to just how much that visit results in a purchase. So let's look at these three groups. Let's start with the easiest one, current customers. So these customers are brand loyal, they do branded searches, they typically purchase products within that price range, within that grouping. So using luxury beauty as an example, they're used to that price point, they're used to kind of the education piece that goes along with luxury beauty. There is a low acquisition cost for cross-sell. So let's say you're releasing a new version or an updated version. To gain that current customer, to get them to try that product, that's going to be a lot easier than, if you were launching a brand new brand or something like that. Typically, these customers come in at a low ACoS and a high repeat purchase rate. Something to think about here for Q4 is sometimes we tend to want to overhaul all our campaigns. However, I would advise you to continue to leverage historical campaigns and to continue to build on those, as they have already built click-through history as well as relevancy relative to the keyword. Jordan, do you have any additional tips on how we can protect that branded real estate?
Yeah, absolutely. So as Nancy touched on, it is vital that you protect your current customers, your branded customers. And she touched on it briefly when we're discussing budget, and ensuring that you've got your budget broken out so you can ensure that you're taking full advantage of those branded searches. The best way to do that, and what we'd really recommend here at CPC, is to create separate sponsored product campaigns or headline campaigns specifically for your branded traffic. And obviously in there you would include all of your different branded keywords. The main tip there again is you'll want to make sure that your daily budgets on those types of campaigns are not getting hit by the end of the day, because it is vital to make sure that we're keeping those customers in kind of our pool, and we're not letting other competitors or other brands come in and start bidding on our own branded keywords and trying to steal those customers away. So very, very important to protect your current customers, your brand loyal customers, especially in Q4 and holiday.
Absolutely. So as we're looking at our second group, these are competitors' customers. So these are also brand loyal customers. However, they're brand loyal to our competitor, and so they're trying to capture our traffic as well as trying to protect their own space. So these customers tend to be brand loyal. They use branded searches for your competitor brands. They tend to come at a high ACoS and high acquisition cost. That being said, the pro of these types of customers is they already have knowledge about your category. And so if we apply this type of framework to baby, the baby category, and we sell organic diapers, maybe that consumer already understands what the value proposition of an organic diaper is within that category. And so they're already used to, whether it's price point, education, etc. They have that kind of knowledge base there. And so when we're looking at acquiring competitor customers, something that we talk about with our clients is look for products that may be similar to yours. However, they have maybe a lower star rating, or they're a couple dollars more expensive, and then start to target those competitors with our competitor branded searches. Jordan, have you seen success using that strategy, or what other strategies do you have for our listeners today?
Yeah, so as Nancy mentioned, generally if we are going after competitors' customers and we are going, using keywords with sponsored product campaigns and then headline search campaigns, now known as sponsored brands, we will see higher ACoS and a higher acquisition cost there. again, as we're trying to essentially steal a customer that is brand loyal to a competitor. A few different ways we do this. Again, we touched on it with some of the keyword campaigns, so sponsored brands, sponsored products, setting up specific campaigns that are only competitor focused campaigns. So you can take your, generally what we'd recommend is taking your, your top converting keywords or your top converting search terms for a product, and then adding on, some competitor brand names to the fronts of those, to get out in front of those competitors' brand loyal customers. There's also opportunity here from a product display ad standpoint, where we call it an offensive strategy, where we target specific other competitors' detail pages, and then feature our product directly on their page. Again, it's great for visibility and getting that customer familiar with our offering. And generally, the best structure there, what we like to do for our clients is looking at competitors that have either the same price point of that product or a higher price point, and then similar review star rating as well. So if we have a product that's $20 and it's got 4-star reviews, we'd like to target a competitor's product that has either that same price point or higher, and then a similar review rating or lower, ideally, to try and help steal that customer to our product.
Awesome. So the next group of customers is our potential customers, and this is where I get really excited about, because I think this is where those incremental sales come in, and this is where we start to see those customers come back as current customers. So these potential customers, if we're using the luxury beauty example, I love my dad, but he will never be somebody who uses a retinol cream, and so he is never going to fall into this potential customers group. If we think about our potential customers, we really need to understand who our customer is and who we want to target. These customers, again, using the luxury beauty example, these customers typically will use non-branded searches. They're not yet brand loyal. They may still fall into mass beauty, and so there's still some education piece that needs to be fulfilled there. They do tend to come at a high acquisition cost and a high ACoS, because they're likely shopping around, they're likely comparing, especially with higher priced items. Although they do have the lowest repeat purchase rate, the reason I say this is because they're probably still trying different products. We also see this is where the highest incremental sales comes in. So this would be a good point to kind of chat a little bit about how we can reach these customers. So Annalicia, I believe we have a poll. Does anybody use ARA Premium? Do they use, or do you know what it is? Do you have access to it?
Yeah, so I just launched the poll for our audience that should take over your screen. So if you could just, include yes or no answer if you have or if you do use ARA Premium. And I'll close this poll in a few seconds here, but it seems like the majority is no.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Jordan.
Great.
I was just going to say, for anyone that is not familiar with ARAP, that is a vendor-only option that is available in Vendor Central.
Okay,
so yeah, if you are a seller, you won't have access there.
Great point. Cool. So on your screen now. Yep. Sorry.
Just going to actually read the results here. It's an 87% is a no, 13% is yes. They do have ARA Premium, just so you know.
Awesome. Okay, great. So on your screen right now, you're looking at babies and bananas, and what the heck does this have to do with Amazon and our Q4 strategy? And so basically what we did at CPC was we looked at our ARA Premium market basket analysis report, and we saw that a large percentage of the time that a mom, dad, parent was buying diapers, they were also buying bananas. And if you had to say, to maybe your CMO or something like that, yep, I'm going to go after banana type goods, I'm going to start with our diaper brand, they might look at you like you have two heads. But when you start to think about your potential customer and your consumer on Amazon, we have to think a little bit differently, and we have to understand what that consumer journey is. And so when thinking about babies and bananas, I encourage you guys to kind of think out the box. If you don't have access to ARA Premium, start to look at the bottom of your screen. You'll see customers also bought this item. You might be able to place some PDAs on there. And then Jordan, you have a great tool for our 3P sellers.
Correct. So again, if you are a 3P seller operating on Seller Central, you will not have access to ARAP. Even if you are a vendor, not everyone has the access. There is a fee there associated with getting access to ARAP. So for those of you that don't have it, a cool tool that we've been using here recently is called YASIV. It's spelled YASIV. And it is a free tool, a free website. So you can actually just go to yasiv.com. And essentially what this does is it scrapes detail pages and looks at what Nancy touched on, frequently bought together items, as well as the customers who viewed this also viewed section of a detail page. And then it'll pull that together on that website into a really nice, essentially a nice web or visualization tool. So a quick example that I did here, you won't see this directly on your screen, but feel free to play around with that YASIV tool. Doing a search for car seat. You can also search by ASIN or your brand name, but just an example for you guys, searching car seat, a web map will pull up here, and I'm actually able to see different categories or different products that are outside of car seat. So whether it be children's books, or if it is diapers, which is obviously heavily correlated and related there, or changing mats. It branches, it opens up more opportunity to branch out of your current category, start targeting different products that are similar and could also be purchased by a mother or father that's also looking for a car seat. So definitely encourage you guys all to check out the tool YASIV. Again, it's spelled YASIV. Very cool tool, very fun to play with, and again, great opportunity for Q4.
Awesome. The encouragement here is to try and think a little outside the box. And so if you're selling golf gear and your primary target market is dad, maybe this is where you start to edit your copy that, it's a dad and child kind of activity that they can do during the holidays, and you start to target some of those products that Jordan was looking at earlier. And so thinking about, with increased competition, now that we kind of understand where our group of customers sit on Amazon as a demand capture platform, how do we start to kind of put these things together? So the first thing, looking at creative. So we're going to talk a little bit more about this later on, but thinking about how do we absolutely optimize creative for Q4? You can build out a tab in your storefront that is specific to holiday ASINs or holiday deals. You can start to kind of make that holiday themed and add in some storytelling there, thinking about keywords, titles, descriptions, content, etc. Once you have that as a really solid base, then you're going to start to layer in your AMS strategy, which we've spoken a little bit about already, but starting to think about protecting that branded space, like Jordan said, through HSAs, through branded terms, and then combine an offensive and defensive strategy, cross-sell, and then A/B test. Sometimes people think we have a silver bullet that is going to, just absolutely crush Q4, and that's the best thing. We don't. We have to test it's an ongoing test on what works, why did it work, why didn't it work, and that's how we start to think about that incremental gain. And that really leads to the next point is find your niche, find the thing that, how you best speak to your customer on Amazon. If you run a test and it's not working, try something else. And so we're thinking about, neck cream. Another test that we ran recently was we looked at a neck cream that was targeted to 35 plus, 40 plus. And so then we started to look at perfumes that were most popular amongst that age group, and we started to essentially place PDAs on some of those perfumes and see if there was any correlation there. And so start to test things like that so that you're prepped for Q4 by the time Q4, well, we're in it, but by the time that high traffic season comes through, you have some really solid strategies in place. That being said, we've spoken quite a bit now about on Amazon demand capture. That does not operate in silo. And so, Jordan, I would like to chat a little bit more about the full funnel and more upper funnel demand generation.
Absolutely. So I'm sure a lot of you are aware of the marketing funnel. I've seen it before, so really nothing new here. But what we want to do is take a few slides here to break down the funnel so you guys have a better understanding of exactly how you can utilize a full funnel marketing approach on Amazon, specifically around Q4. So you'll see here we'll start by unpacking the bottom of the funnel. And obviously, as Nancy touched on earlier, we know Amazon is a demand generation as well as a demand capture engine, but its real sole purpose, or not sole purpose, I should say, but it does its best work as a demand capture engine. As Nancy noted, 74% of the time a shopper lands on Amazon, that visit will result in a purchase. To make sure that we're getting out in front of those customers and ensuring that we're owning space on the first page of a search results page, we'll need to have a fully baked AMS or advertising console strategy here, and that includes all three ad types: sponsored products, sponsored brands, or formerly known as AMS, headline search ads, as well as product display ads. And you can see here where some of those kind of fall on that funnel. And again, a few notes here more on specific to advertising console and formerly known as AMS. This is primarily on Amazon advertising units. Again, they really serve more as the demand capture engine. They'll be at the bottom of the funnel here. And then in terms of how they actually operate, it is a CPC or cost per click model. And the return is calculated as ACOS, or advertising cost of sale, which is essentially the inverse of ROI. And then another thing we did discuss earlier with branded, non-branded, and competitor products, another kind of pro tip here is to break out your sponsored product as well as your headline search ads into those three different buckets. So we can have a sponsored product campaign, branded sponsored product campaign, non-branded sponsored product campaign, competitor, for each of your different product groupings. And that'll give you a better idea to see exactly what's working. You can also start to segment your budget to allow for that. And again, obviously, we want to make sure we have enough budget for our branded customers. And then everything that's really left over from there is really going to be used to target new customer acquisition via high traffic category or non-branded keywords, as well as trying to steal some of that traffic and shoppers from our competitors using competitor branded keywords. Moving to the top of the funnel here, so you'll see this is more of your typical display advertising. So this was formerly known as AAP, or also people would refer to it as AMG. It's now been rebranded as the DSP console, or demand side platform. And this, again, is more of your typical display advertising. You could compare it to the Google Display Network. And a lot of this is more demand generation. So unpacking the three that we have here, we have lifestyle sitting at the top, which is more awareness. So this would be if we're targeting people that are early adopters, or people that generally like tech products, or if they're very fashion oriented. So that sits at the top of the funnel, just getting out in front of those customers. Below that, we have in-market, which would be essentially a non-branded customer search. So people that are looking, if you're selling jeans, someone is looking in market for jeans, but they're not brand loyal. They're not actively searching for a specific brand. They just know they need a new pair of jeans. And then finally, we have retargeting, which is lower on the funnel here with more purchase intent, as this would be a customer that has been to your detail page, has looked at your products in the past, and then did not convert. We can start to retarget them and bring them back in here to try and get them to convert again. And then Nancy, I know you had a little bit of tips here in terms of how you can utilize the DSP console. Obviously, not everyone has unlimited budgets, and CPMs, or cost per thousands, can be quite costly. Yep. During Q4 and holiday. So how would you approach that?
Absolutely. So we're looking at the total funnel here now on this page, and that's exactly it, Jordan. We have clients come to us that they're interested in using this program, but they're concerned about that high traffic time and the cost that comes with that. And so I would encourage you to think about setting up that campaign still, especially at the retargeting level. So when you're looking at retargeting, sitting at a similar brand, ASIN to ASIN, or brand halo. Once you have that set up, set your CPMs pretty low. So you're not exactly trying to win that top placement during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, but you are still trying to put those customers into your retargeting pool. once that kind of high traffic time is over and the CPMs have come down a little bit, that's where you would ramp up your CPM. And that's where you would kind of open that retargeting bucket again and start to retarget those customers. So that way you're at least not losing out on that traffic, but you're still kind of being budget conscious there. So it does sound scary when we're talking about upper funnel and display and things like that, but really, you know, it is important to kind of think about the full funnel and how to drive that demand generation.
Definitely. And just another note here, obviously important to note, DSP or AAP is not available individually to brands. There is no self-service access there. You either need an agency like CPC Strategy, where we have access to the portal, or you would need to roll out a DSP campaigns working directly with Amazon. Another note here, again, just going back to the full funnel, we like to say here at CPC, better together. Which is essentially looking at that full funnel and having your advertising console or AMS running with DSP and AAP, again, to have that full funnel approach where we're driving new customers and building more demand with AAP or DSP, and then lowering that funnel with the advertising console and AMS, really doing more of the demand capture and getting that customer to convert.
Absolutely. And if you guys are interested in finding out more information about this, or there were specific questions, please feel free to check out our blog, or I believe on Alicia there'll be a link up afterwards where they can talk more about that. So those were, you know, the two main trends that we wanted to talk about. I want to be conscious of time, but there are other things that we need to think about when we're moving into Q4. We know that consumers no longer shop in silos. So, you know, we know that that consumer is maybe seeing something on Instagram, and then they walked into Target, and then their friend told them about it. And so it's naive to think that Amazon is going to be responsible for this ASIN, and your advertising is going to be responsible for its success only. And so when thinking about Q4, we encourage you to really think about a full media plan for Q4. What are your other channels doing? What type of copy and images are they using? And can they be shared across platforms? So start to think about those types of things. Start to communicate with the teams that own those different channels, and build that comprehensive strategy so that your consumer is seeing one message throughout Q4.
Awesome. And then the fourth trend here, the hybrid model. So there's been a lot of buzz around the hybrid model really in 2018. If you've read any Amazon blogs or any discussion boards or forums, it definitely has been a hot topic. So we did want to discuss that briefly here. So what the hybrid model really is essentially operating on both vendor central as well as seller central. And there's a few kind of key points on why we are seeing brands and sellers do this that we'll unpack here. So the first one being price matching and more price control. As you know, on the vendor side, if you're selling direct to Amazon, they then have control of exactly setting that price on the Amazon.com platform, which sometimes could lead to unprofitable products or margins being shrunk there. So that would be an opportunity to utilize Seller Central, where we have more control over that price. You can set the actual price for your products on Amazon. And that leads directly into closer tracking of ASIN profitability, which can be a challenge for a lot of our bigger brands on Vendor Central as well. The other one that we did want to discuss is launching new products. So for all of the vendors or the brands out there operating on Vendor Central, it can be hard to get initial POs for a new product if there's no demand built up there. So something else we've been seeing a lot is utilizing Seller Central to essentially launch these products, build that demand, build and start to build up the Amazon flywheel there, which can then start to be trigger some bigger POs once you launch that product or release that product on the vendor side as well. And then the final one here is utilizing Seller Central as more of an inventory backup. We know that an ASIN can be or a product that goes out of stock can be detrimental to that ASIN's organic rank and the velocity, the sales velocity that you've built up there. So it's very important to ensure we can avoid those stock outs. And a great way to do that is to offer that product in Seller Central as well, whether it's FBA or FBM. If your vendor offer does lose the buy box and it goes out of stock, we will have that Seller Central offer there to kind of pick up the slack. and get those additional units sent out.
Awesome. So Jordan touched a little bit on launching new products for Q4. So this is an example that of a brand that did it really well. This might seem a little scary because they really redid their entire product. But what I want to encourage you guys to think about, and this is more of a fun trend that we were seeing hints of in 2017, but how can we make our ASIN or ASIN variation unique and appealing during Q4? So if you can't kind of build out an entire ASIN, think about what else you can do to really access this customer who is shopping for giftable items. Things to consider are your warehouse capabilities. Maybe you have a leftover gift with purchase or GWP from a previous promotion that you can now add to the ASIN and talk about that added value in your store. Or maybe it is a chance to partner with another brand that you work closely with. So start to think about, we see big retail brands do these types of promotions, but we don't see it enough on Amazon. And that consumer is still the same consumer. They're still looking for that holiday item. If you are absolutely like, no, Nancy, I can't do any of the above, then I would encourage you to at least access your creative team. So think about having a holiday hero image, so putting a bow or putting something that speaks to that time of year. The other thing to think about is placing PDAs on giftable lifestyle items. So what types of gifts, or what, in BuzzFeed articles and different articles, what are giftable items that are trending that we can then cross-sell our product to. So that is a great way to get incremental sales. Where we've seen success is really creating that ASIN variation or that added value ASIN. We've seen significant growth in POs on the vendor side without too much cannibalization of the evergreen ASIN. So that's something that you should really start to consider now and talk about with your warehouse and your production team. If that is not an option, then start talking to your creative team about how you can access holiday images for your listings. And so that is really the bulk of the presentation for today. There is so much more that we can talk about, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time. So please feel free to reach out with questions. But when we're looking at key takeaways, we know that we see increased competition. We've seen it throughout 2018, but we're going to continue to see it increase during Q4. So really take the opportunity to understand and identify where your customer is and how to best reach them on Amazon.
And then in terms of the full funnel Amazon marketing approach, it is essential to really have that fully baked again. So with AMS sitting towards the bottom of the funnel with it more demand capture, and then AAP or DSP more towards the top of the funnel being more demand generation and refilling that funnel as well.
Absolutely. We know that consumers no longer shop in silos, so speak to your teams about building a comprehensive media plan so that you can share learnings, images, and copy.
And then the hybrid model, obviously a lot of buzz around that recently. We did touch on 4 notes there about how we can utilize that, but look at your business. Despite all the buzz around that, does it make sense for your business? Will it work for your products? If the answer is yes, then we would recommend at least exploring that option of opening up a hybrid approach.
Absolutely. And then the final one that really kind of filters into all of these is think about either ASIN Exclusives for Q4 or identify ASINs with holiday potential. So start thinking about creative and copy that you can use to access those customers.
Again,
okay,
just a
great.
quick
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say thank you to you both, Jordan and Nancy, for going over all these insightful Amazon trends. I'm sure our audience is ready and eager to start adding some of these tips into their strategy. Here's a recap of everything we went over today. I won't go over it too much in depth because I know everyone's dying to get to that Q&A with these 6 minutes left. But I do want to say that we recognize optimizing and fine-tuning your Q4 campaign with these strategies is, it's a tough puzzle to crack. So I'm going to launch a poll question now, and I'll keep it up for a few minutes, and I will not share these results with the audience. But, if you would like to schedule some time to speak with CPC Strategy on advanced strategies and you'd like to know what it'd be like to work with CPC Strategy as an agency, let us know. I'm going to keep, again, this poll question up for a little bit, so you can opt into speaking with one of our experts if you feel like you want to, for just in time for Q4. So I will get to some Q&A now for Jordan and Nancy. I know that you guys answered some questions along the way. But I guess I'll ask the first question coming from Rita, and a few others asked in respect to bundle creation. So how do you pick the products when you're for bundles, and how do you know that it's going to be successful for the holidays?
That's a great question. So again, using that market basket analysis, if you have access to that, if not, using tools like Jordan suggested, thinking about, what are our top 2 selling items? Could we bundle those? If those, aren't complementary, maybe there's an item that we want to introduce our customers to that isn't doing so well, that does well on other channels. So we've seen, going back to the beauty example, where a client will come to us and say, this is our best seller in Sephora, and why is it not selling on Amazon? And so maybe create that additional exposure. That is the good answer there. The other answer is obviously cost. And so products that you have high margin on that you're able to kind of bundle together, and it's still valuable to your business. That is the other thing. The other thing too. Jordan, do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, just a brief one. In terms of differentiating yourself from the competition, again, we discussed how crowded the Amazon ecosystem, the Amazon space has gotten. So really just moving forward, obviously in Q4 and holiday, but even outside of that, it's never been more important to differentiate yourself, differentiate your offering, and ensure that you are, doing everything you can to create that kind of full customer experience.
Okay, great. I think that goes towards a couple of other questions on how to really differentiate yourself from the competition as well. But we can move on to, we had a couple questions on the hybrid model. So Kathy was wondering, for smaller businesses, would you recommend the hybrid model, or do you think you should wait until you hit a certain amount of SKUs or a certain ad spend kind of number, or do you recommend it for kind of all business sizes?
I don't know if there's a perfect answer there in terms of, if you're spending this much, you should evaluate the hybrid model. I think, again, as we touched on in the recap slide, it's important to evaluate your own business. And I think the main thing to think about is just capability. So if you're operating on Vendor Central currently, do you have, or does your warehouse have the capabilities to operate in Seller Central with smaller one-off orders, or smaller FBA shipments, or if you're going to be operating FBM or fulfilled by merchant, do you have those capabilities? On the flip side, if you're a 3P operating out of Seller Central, the first roadblock there is obviously Vendor Central is an invite-only platform. But do you have the capabilities internally to manage that? If the answer to both of those would be yes, then I think it's at least worthwhile to set it up. And again, as Nancy said, it's worthwhile to at least test a little bit. If it doesn't work and you're not seeing the results you want, you can always, close that account as well.
Okay, noted. Thank you, Jordan, for that. I know it's tricky with an it depends kind of answer, particular to everyone's business. So if you are selling on Seller Central and Vendor Central, what's the better platform to run maybe specific advertisements on? Does it vary what part of the funnel you're focusing on? When would you decide, to promo some certain things through your Seller Central account versus your Vendor Central account?
I would do a cost analysis there. So thinking about, where are you going to kind of make the most margin? So evaluate your fees on both sides, and then evaluate the exposure on both sides. So sometimes, we'll have brands that work with vendor managers that are able to get them access to certain pages and things like that. But if I was a brand owner, or if I was kind of in charge of that promotion and had access to both platforms, I would think about, exposure and cost as my 2 main focuses.
And then just from an advertising standpoint there, what we do, so people that do have a kind of a hybrid model fully baked out and running, it is important to have your ads running on the vendor side and in the AMS or advertising console platform. And again, if you've got sponsored products running for an ASIN where you have that vendor offer, if the vendor offer is in the buy box, that ad unit will run. Again, let's say that product stocks out, and then on your 3P side, your FBA shipment is then now in the buy box. Then your sponsored product ad campaigns via Seller Central would pick up. So it's important to note that you won't be both. Those ads won't run at the same time. It is automatically running based on what offer is in the buy box.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much, Nancy and Jordan. So unfortunately, it's 10:45 over here Pacific time. We're gonna have to, say goodbye for now. We do have a presentation up in another 15 minutes, but we've run out of time for this one specifically. So I want to say thank you to Jordan and Nancy for presenting today, and a huge thank you for our audience for being in attendance today. We understand that 45 minutes of your time is extremely valuable, and we are very thankful that you chose to spend it here with us. Again, if you do want to stay tuned in for Solid Commerce presentation on inventory management, send back in another 15 minutes by 11 for Pacific time, 1 for Central time, 2 for Eastern. But thank you for everyone for being in attendance, and thank you, Jordan and Nancy, for that Q&A round and for presenting all of that content. So this is Ana Alicia. I'm signing off from CPC Strategy in San Diego.